Oof, how can I resist such an awesome design? Hello, this is Ken. I like making things. I like making things out of paper, and I like making things cooler. Especially my figures. Sometimes figures don't look all that screen accurate. All they need is a bit of touch-up here and there to unleash their hidden potential. I also love using everyday tools and materials to recreate iconic scenes from my figures, so they can shine on my display. Subscribe to my channel and join my DIY adventure as I ask myself the same question every week. Can I make it? Last week, I worked on Miles Morales from Across the Spider-Verse, fixing the inaccuracies and making him look more like his movie counterpart. I experimented a bit with the cell shading highlights too. Check it out if you're interested. Today, I'm gonna work on the figure that I thought looked the most badass of the wave, Cyborg Spider-Woman. Random fun fact, my first Spider-Man figure was this Toy Biz Cyborg Spider-Man. I actually never found a normal animated Spider-Man figure as a kid. It was always sold out. This was the only Spider-Man figure I came across, so when I saw this new beefed up Mega Evolved version, I knew I had to get her. Let's deconstruct this figure. There's an FAQ on the paint and brushes I use in the description box below. This design is kinda insane. Normally, I don't love asymmetrical designs as they often look unbalanced. But that's not the case for Cyborg Spider-Woman. There's so much unique details on each body part. It is as if the designer just went, more! More! The overall paint job is pretty good. I was surprised at the different kinds of paint and plastic on the figure. They did skip the web lines on the back and on part of her boots. But as a whole, this figure is pretty good. I do want to make the gun more metallic and add those missing web details. So, can I make it? The first thing I want to adjust is actually the blue. Don't get me wrong, I love the blue they used. It's a nice vibrant blue. But the plastic sheen is a bit too much. I want that cell shading look, and I think the blue is the main thing that kinda breaks that illusion. But before I paint, I'm gonna sand the blue and silver surface first. The plastic they use feels very slippery. I'm actually gonna dull down the blue a bit. The reason for that is because I want her gun to be the main attraction, and I find that the blue is competing for that attention. So I've decided to dull it down a little, and this will also mattify the blue as well. Oh, the blue is actually pretty similar to the one they used. Nice. Okay, the blue is now matte. It makes her pants look more cloth-like. Let me quickly do the back and add a few more thin layers. I might have overdone it. Now the blue looks too flat and has this velvet look to it. I'll fix that later. Onto the gun. Or cannon according to the official bio. I originally wanted to try a new paint suggested by this comment, and I thought the store near my home had it. But it turns out the paint I saw was meant for airbrushing. Unfortunately, my room has no ventilation. I can't really do airbrushing without suffocating. But I did order that actual paint online. I just haven't received it yet. So for now, I'm going to repeat what I've done to Infinity Ultron. Instead of mixing my own gunmetal color, I'm going to paint the surface black first, and then I'll add the silver over that. When using silver paint by itself, it sometimes looks hollow or fake. This technique makes the silver appear more solid, gritty, and realistic. But to be honest, this method is quite intimidating. It feels wrong to paint it such a dark color, but I gotta trust the process. It's too late not to trust it now. I'm also gonna brush a bit of black onto the metal claw thing on her knee. Alright, time to add the silver. I'm applying the silver in a kinda streaky manner. I do want to build up the intensity of the silver, but I don't want to overblend it. I kinda want the strokes to be somewhat visible, to give the gun that gritty metallic look. I'm gonna keep adding the silver until it's giving off the metallic shine that I'm going for. and switching over to a finer brush to emphasize certain details. There's so much molded details on the gun, like all those nuts and bolts. I'm gonna play with lights and shadows to make these elements pop. Anything that sticks out will be lighter in tone, and all the nooks and crannies will be darker. I'm gonna exaggerate these tones to make the gun pop more. I dipped my brush into water to make it damp, and I'm gonna add a bit of black to all the recessed areas. It's probably quicker to just do a black wash with a wider brush, but many of you know I like having a bit more control on where I want the black paint. Both methods produce similar results, it's just a personal preference. Alright, here's what her weaponized arm looks like. It looks very mechanical and metallic, but it still looks a bit too clean or brand new to me, so I'm gonna add a bit of this brown to it. I want to give it that burnt metal look, like how cooking pots and pans turn slightly brown over time from the heat. That's the look I'm going for. Or rust. It may end up looking rusty. Either way, I'll add a bit more realism to the cannon. Okay, I kinda gave up on the cell shading style. I'm loving how the gun looks, but everything else now looks too muted. The suit needs to be more dramatic. It is kinda giving Fisher-Price right now, so let me quickly darken the grey first. I feel like these areas will look better darker. With the gun being so massive, it needs another dark color to counterbalance it. Painting the soles black will weigh it down visually, at least to me. I'm also going to darken the spiky bracelets too. Next, I'm going to mix myself a gunmetal color, a color that's different than the silver on the cannon, and apply it over her shoulder pad. I could have done the same technique, but with all the spikes coming out of the shoulder pad, it would have required quite a bit of effort, so it's a bit easier this way. Besides, I don't want the shoulder pads to outshine the cannon literally. I just wanted to have a bit more of a metallic sheen. Alright, now I'm just highlighting the little bolts on the shoulder pad with a regular silver, and line the panels and add a bit of shading with the black. Since I got the gunmetal color ready, let me apply that over the spikes to make them more shiny and sharp. Alright, time to add the web lines. I mixed myself a similar looking grey, and I'm gonna add all the missing webbings back in. This is gonna take a while. At least my grey matches the grey that's already there. Okay, that took a long time, but I did it. You may notice that there's a bit of shine to the webbings. I added touches of silver here and there on the webbings because I think they're actually barbed wires, and it kinda goes with the whole metal theme. Speaking of metal, the thing I want to work on next are the chains on the torso. The chains here have this dark brown tint to it, so I'm going to mix myself a brownish metallic color, and brush it all over the chains, so they don't look like they're made out of plastic. I wonder how they attach the chains onto the torso. I couldn't figure out a way to remove them. Anyway, now I'm going to fill in the holes with black paint, to add a bit more depth to the chains. It's still not metallic enough, so let me brush a bit of silver onto the high points of the chains to further increase the contrast. Onto the belt. I thought about leaving it as is, but with everything else looking more and more 3D, I'm gonna have to do something to the belt too. So I'm gonna add a bit of shading with this brown, so the yellow isn't too flat. It may also give it that hand-drawn or hand-painted look too. I have some extra brown paint left, so let me use that to add some shading to the boots too. I'm applying the brown onto the edges of the boots, to give the boots a bit of that leather feel, and to make the boots look even more interesting. It's not interesting enough. Let me do this again, but with a darker brown. that looks much better. I also worked on the tongue and the straps on the boots a bit too. This is optional, but I'm gonna mattify the grey straps on the figure. I'm not a big fan of that plastic sheen, and the goal today is to make her weapon the main attraction, so everything else gotta be duller. Okay, not too dull. Gotta add a bit of shading to these straps too. Okay, now I can't stop. Let me fill in those lines on her pants too. I'm using the dark brown instead of black. I'm a bit nervous that these lines may be too harsh. I noticed that the blue paint was kinda chipping more than usual. I think it's due to the original blue plastic being too slippery. And the piece that hangs down the belt is also scraping the paint off. So I'm gonna go over the blue areas with a matte varnish. This will add a layer of protection to the paint. But I still have to be careful when posing her left leg, and avoid letting the belt piece hit her thigh. Alright, this is what it looks like now. The varnish gave the blue that subtle plastic sheen again. But that's an easy fix. I just need to dust a bit of the same blue over it again. It seems a bit silly to remove the shine, add it back, only to remove it again. But at least the paint is somewhat protected. Onto the head. By itself, there's nothing wrong with it. All I need to do is to match the silver to the rest of the body. So I'm going to coat the silver bits with the black first. I am going to skip the left eye patch, so that there's a bit of variety of silver going on. I want this eye patch to be lighter in tone, so I'm going to paint over it with the plain silver. And now I'm going to go over the other parts for the silver too. I'm only adding the silver sparingly, so I can get that grunge metal look to the mask and the other eye. Here's the finished head. Minor changes, but it looks much better. I also added a bit of silver onto the knots of the webbings, or the barbed wires, making everything look more metallic. Alright, here's what Cyborg Spider-Woman looks like all finished. I love how heavy her gun looks now. Other than that, there aren't any drastic changes, but almost every part of the figure has been painted in one way or another, especially the backside of her arm and boots. Oh, I also painted the bullet casings on the shoulder pad. I went over them with the gold to make them shinier off screen. I also love how the chains on the torso turned out. They are the same color, but more metallic. What do you think? Do you like what I've done to Cyborg Spider-Woman? Let me know down below. Color-wise, the original figure was pretty good. There weren't any glaring missing paint details. Most of the webbings were painted, but the figure definitely looks better with all the web lines filled in. There's so much sculpted details on the figure, but the design doesn't look overly busy. The asymmetry actually works very well, but Cyborg Spider-Woman is much more limited when it comes to posing. Her gun doesn't throw off the balance that much, but there's only so many poses she can do due to the limited range of motion. But does she need to do crazy poses when she looks this badass? Let's find out. Time for a photoshoot. There's this presence to Cyborg Spider-Woman. It's like staring at a Hulk version of a Spider-Woman, except she has a giant gun for an arm. I like the bit of brown added to the weapon. It's not noticeable from afar, but it's there once you take a closer look. It makes the cannon look like it's been used many times before, and not a squeaky clean weapon that's brand new. Cyborg Spider-Woman has all these details that can only be appreciated up close. There's so much going on, and none of these elements clash with each other. Something about this just works as a design. Mao's design is sleek and simplistic, and Cyborg Spider-Woman is the complete opposite. It makes such an interesting juxtaposition. Anyway, Give this video a like if you enjoyed today's video. Subscribe to see more content like this. I'm glad I got this figure. There's one more figure I want to do from this wave. Any guesses on which one? And as always, stay inspired and I'll see you next week. I can make it, so can you.